summer, having some fun may be a bit more expensive. A new analysis from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce reveals the impact of President Trump's tariffs on some classic summertime items.
This report breaks down the expected increase in costs for consumers on everything from fishing reels to grills, beach towels to bikes. So to get a closer look at the numbers, we want to bring in Neil Bradley, the Chamber's Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer. Neil, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Avery. Good morning, Will. It's great to be with you both.
So first, talk to us about what stood out to you most in this analysis. What are the items that are really getting hit the hardest?
Yeah, so if you think about summer essentials, some of the ones you just mentioned, but lighting up a barbecue grill, smoking a brisket, well, most of our grills are imported and they face a 30% tariff. If the grill isn't imported, the ones that are made in America often rely on parts that may come in. Those are being hit with a 25% tariff. Swimwear, everyone wants to get to the pool and try to cool down. We import a lot of our swimwear. It's facing tariffs of about 58%. And so it's not just these kind of items that maybe you buy and can use for a couple of years, but sunscreen. We're constantly replacing our sunscreen. Well, that too is facing tariffs. And so it's really hard to escape the tariff impact. And what we're beginning to see today is that businesses right now are now paying those increased tariffs when they're buying and importing goods. And that means that we're not very far away from us, the consumer, feeling that price increase when we're in the store.
The U.S. Chamber also estimates just how much the typical American household will be impacted by tariffs that have already been imposed to date. How big of an effect will those have?
Yeah, it could be up to $4,000 for the average family. And so it hits everything from the summer essentials that we just talked about to back to school clothing to the items that we consume for breakfast. So if you like coffee, we don't grow coffee in the United States. We're currently imposing a 10% tariff on coffee. Bananas, we don't grow bananas either. Another 10% tariff. And so pretty soon these things start to add up, and you do that across all the things that we buy. It gets to be a pretty hefty tag.
Yeah, that 4,000 number is pretty staggering. Neil, we know that the Chamber also is very focused on small businesses here in the United States. So talk about those folks and how they could be impacted. Will they feel it more than maybe some larger companies?
They absolutely will. And so, the interesting thing is a lot of times people think imports, they're like, oh, that's a big business thing. There are big stores that are importing. And of course they do. But actually the numbers, 97% of all businesses that import are actually small businesses. So there's about 36,000 businesses in Texas who bring in goods from other countries. And, 90+% of those are small businesses. So what happens to that small business? All of a sudden you have a 25% tariff, let's say, on a good that used to have a 2.5% tariff. Your tariff bill goes from, a couple $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars. If you're a small business, you don't have a lot of cash lying around to pay that tax bill to Uncle Sam. You have to figure out, can you pass that cost along to your consumers? And if you can't, the very survivability of your business comes into question. I was just talking to one entrepreneur. She developed a product that for infants, for babies, and she sells it. She imports the good. She's facing tariffs that could come close to $100,000. She doesn't have that money. What happens? That's a good question. She's worried about the survivability of her business.
Neil, obviously you're hearing a lot about what impact this will have on businesses out there, but in your role, you're responsible for the organization's overall advocacy efforts. What type of work are you doing to take, or at least advocate for some maybe changes over these tariffs?
Yeah, so these tariffs, this is a policy decision. And so policymakers in Washington decided to impose the tariffs. They can decide to remove them or modify them. The Trump administration wants to negotiate new trade deals that ultimately lower tariffs and allow us to import things without the tariffs, allows us to export things. That would be a good thing. But negotiations, they take time. They don't happen overnight. And the one thing that small businesses don't have is time. So what we've suggested to the Trump administration is modify the tariffs. No tariffs for small business. So if you're one of those 36,000 importers, most of whom are small businesses in Texas, you don't have to pay the tariffs anymore. You can get back to running your business and not figuring out how you pay this massive new tax bill. The Trump administration could do that with a stroke of a pen. We're encouraging them to do it, and we hope that they will in short order.
Neil Bradley with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, thank you so much for your time and insights today.
Avery, Will, thanks so much for having me.